There used to be a place where who you were didn't follow you home. For many people, that place existed alongside school as a way out of it. School pressure wasn't subtle, grades were visible, reputation mattered, and expectations stayed in front of you, even on days when nothing went wrong. The sense of being evaluated didn't shut off when class ended. Logging into another world didn't erase that pressure, it interrupted it. For a few hours, the rules changed, and what counted during the day just stopped applying. The version of you that felt behind, stressed, or uncertain didn't have control here. You weren't trying to disappear, you were just looking to step into a space where that weight eased enough to breathe. Life ran on two tracks. One was fixed and public, teachers knew you, records followed you, choices accumulated whether you felt ready or not. But the other track that ran quietly beside it, inside online worlds, you chose a name, a role, a way of showing up. People there knew you through action, not history, and what mattered was what you did while you were present. You had different friends there, different conversations, shared goals that made connections simple, even when nothing personal was exchanged, because the depth wasn't required. You could log in briefly and still belong, or you could stay longer and let that world take up even more room. Having that choice mattered more than it seemed, because at that time, you didn't have much control over anything. The pull didn't come from novelty or distraction, it came from relief paired with structure. Inside that parallel world, effort translated cleanly. Time spent became progress without being weighed against your future. Social interaction didn't demand explanation or defense. You weren't avoiding responsibility. You were entering a space where responsibility didn't harden into identity, and that distinction allowed attention to settle. A sociologist once described everyday life as a series of performances shaped by setting. Some environments demand consistency, while others allow distance from a role. What matters isn't whether a role feels authentic in theory, but whether it follows you when you leave that space. That idea comes from the presentation of self in everyday life, where Erving Goffman explains how identity shifts depending on audience and consequence. Life works best when those settings remain distinct. Those online worlds functioned as a backstage. Identity existed there without permanence. You can invest without locking yourself into a fixed version of who you were meant to become, because you could just create a new character if you really wanted to. And mistakes didn't really that matter because you could just respawn. And your progress mattered only within that space because when you left, it was still there. Your success and failures stayed within that space and never followed you back into the real world. And in that separation created safety. Not comfort in the soft sense, but rather room to exist without being tracked. And over time, life changed shape. Your schedules filled, decisions gained weight, time stopped feeling open and began to feel claimed. The parallel world didn't disappear, it just became harder to enter cleanly. Logging in no longer felt like stepping sideways, it felt like switching contacts while carrying everything with you. Unfinished tasks stayed close and guilt arrived earlier. The boundary weakened. That structure depended on separation though, and parallel lives only work when roles remain distinct. As real-world identity became more fixed, the cost of switching roles increased. Attention arrived divided, and your presence became partial. The game didn't lose depth. The space that allowed full participation collapsed under pressure from elsewhere. Most of the times, this wasn't the loss of interest, it was the loss of permission. Permission to exist somewhere without consequence. Permission to invest without committing your future self. Permission to be present without turning that presence into something permanent. Modern life rarely allows that. Most roles accumulate and most effort moves forward whether you feel ready or not. A parallel world requires room. Video games didn't stop being capable of pulling people in. What faded was that space that allowed a second life to exist without pressure. A place where identity stayed flexible, effort mattered without consequence, and attention could settle without being claimed. That space didn't disappear because the games changed. It disappeared because life stopped leaving room for it.